Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Author Adjacent, the show about the journey from hobbyist writer to professional author. I'm your host, Michael Vadney, and we're rolling right along with Team FanFiAddict SPFBO 11 coverage. Today, we've got 5 more cuts and our third semi-finalist to announce. We've already seen Shadows of the Sunderlands by Corbin Rook and Blackwater by Emily Blakeney advance. So who's going to join them? But first, we've got to talk about some cuts. Same as always, a cut doesn't mean you should automatically skip these books. Every one of these books has readers out there who are going to love it, and I'll do my best to point you in the right direction. First up is Snatcher by Amanda N. Newman. This one has an interesting core, and there is a lot of creative ideas here to love. But where the judges struggled on this one was in the execution. The world building, while intriguing, didn't feel as fully fleshed out as we would have wanted. It was more like a collection of fascinating pieces that didn't quite come together into a cohesive whole. The first-person narration leaned more toward the telling than the showing, and the story structure didn't quite deliver on the promise of the initial setup, which the initial setup was fascinating. But if you enjoy imaginative, idea-rich fantasy, and you're the kind of reader that gets excited by creative world building, even when the story is still trying to find its footing, then Snatcher might be worth looking at. Next, we have Oath of Eternity by Sei Zande. This is a fantasy built on the tension between gods and mortals, with political intrigue woven throughout. One judge found it to be a fun story set in a fascinating world, praising the distinct voices of the POV characters, and the way they developed over the course of the narrative. But the team was kind of split on this one. While some enjoyed the character work and the god-mortal dynamics, others found that the characters and the dialogue didn't really land for them, and both noted some prose issues, particularly choppy, short sentences that disrupted the flow early on in the story, though the team felt that the writing did improve as the story progressed. But if you love the God in my mind trope, political intrigue between divine and mortal forces, and you enjoy watching prose sharpen over pages, Oath of Eternity could be a great fit for you. Our third cut is Fly Stone Fly by Dust Kunkel. This is a dark fantasy that puts you inside the mind of a 16-year-old boy who has been left on his own for years. The author makes some bold artistic choices to capture that unstable, isolated headspace. And the team respected the ambition, but found that the execution was tough to connect with. The narrative style, while interesting, made the story difficult to follow over the length of a full novel. One of the judges pointed out that it was a technique better suited for a short story, but both judges agreed that the book fully committed to its dark tone, but felt that it sometimes leaned into the darkness without it always serving the story in a meaningful way. But who is this story for? If you're drawn to experimental, voice-heavy dark fantasy, and you appreciate an author who takes real stylistic risks, Fly Stone Fly might be worth exploring. Next up is A Night of Burnt Men by Emmanuel Akeo. The premise here is immediately compelling: a father protecting a hunted child in an internally shadowed world. That's a dark, high-stakes setup with a lot of emotional potential. The team agreed there's a strong foundation here. The story moves at a brisk pace, the atmosphere is thick and moody, and the core concept is genuinely intriguing. Where it fell short for us was in the execution of that potential. The pacing, while fast, sometimes made the action feel unearned, and inconsistent characterization made it harder to stay fully invested emotionally. The prose commits to the grim tone, but occasionally lacks the clarity needed to pull us further into the story. But if you are drawn to darker fantasy with a strong atmospheric hook, the kind of book that drops you into a shadowed, dangerous world that doesn't let up, this one's worth trying. Our last cut of the day is A Sea of Blood and Tears by J.K. Divya. And I want to linger on this one for a moment because we had some really strong things to say. I was flat out engrossed throughout, calling the use of folklore and myth breathtaking. It's truly a strange and engrossing tale. The story follows Iona, a Selkie mother determined to protect her children. It blends Old Norse-inspired world building with deeply personal and emotional stakes. The opening is strong, the characters are memorable, and the balance between the mythic scope and the intimate storytelling is a real achievement. Unfortunately, the prose at times could feel uneven, leaning on repetition and heavy internal narration. But the pacing and the atmosphere keeps it moving. This was clearly a tough cut, one that came down to the realities of competition rather than the lack of any quality. But if you love myth-inspired fantasy, Old Norse mythology, or character-driven stories with emotional depth and richly atmospheric world, then you should absolutely pick this up. All right, here we go. Team FanFiAddict's third semifinalist is No More Levels by Benjamin Bareth. This one stands out right away for a pretty rare reason. It's a standalone lit RPG. If you know the genre, you know that is almost unheard of. Series with dozens of books are considered only moderately long in the lit RPG space. So a single self-contained volume is a genuine breath of fresh air, and the team loved it. One judge called themselves a veteran of the genre, said that No More Levels strikes the right balance between character progression and plot progression, something a lot of lit RPG books struggle with. The main character, Rin, feels lovable. The take on the genre is fresh, and the overall vibe makes it a genuinely fun read. The other judge went in hesitant, unsure of what to expect, and came out the other side having had a blast, praising the narrative propulsion and the way Rin's cursed status creates compelling ripple effects with everyone that he interacts with. Congratulations to Benjamin Bareth. No More Levels joins Shadows of the Sunderland and Blackwater as Team FanFiAddict's third semifinalist. That's 3 semifinalists down, more cuts in the books for Team FanFiAddict on the SPFBO 11. As always, every one of today's cuts has something to offer, so please go back, explore the ones that caught your interest. You might find your next favorite read. I'll be back with more SPFBO 11 coverage soon. Until then, let's be author adjacent together.